In this video, we're going to cover another PHP data type. It's objects. So what is an object? An object is an instance of a class, and a class is similar to a template. Using that template, we can create objects. Okay, let's build an example so that we can understand this better. So I'm going to create a class called car. Okay, so the syntax is easy. We need to use the keyword class followed by the name of our class. I'm going to call it car. And then we're going to have curly brackets. And inside our curly brackets, we're going to have something we call properties. And then we're going to have methods. So a property is a variable which is going to be linked to any object we create using this class. So let's create a property make of the car. Okay, and by default, we're going to give it a value Ford. Okay. And also let's create another property. This one is going to be status, and it's going to define the status of the car. By default, we want the car to be off. Okay. So when we create a car, it's going to have a make by default Ford and a status off. So I'm going to add a keyword just before the first variable, public, and it means that this property is going to be accessible from within the class and from outside the class. Okay, we understand this better when we create our example, our objects using the car class. The second method, we're gonna make it private using the private keyword, and this means that we will be able to access this method from within the class with the methods of the class, but we will not be able to access this method from outside the class. Okay. Okay. So now we're gonna move to methods. So methods, they are functions which are also linked to the objects of this class. So we're gonna create a function. We haven't covered yet the syntax of functions in PHP, but it's more or less similar to JavaScript. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a function that I'm going to call turn on. So it doesn't take any parameters. Okay. So I'm just going to open curly brackets and write the code of the function inside the brackets. So this function turn on is going to change the status of our object from off to on. Okay. So the way it works is we need first to access the property status. So if we had an object already, would use the name of our object, okay, like this, name, and then would have minus sign, greater than sign, like an arrow, and then status. Okay, but when we creating the class like this, we can use another keyword. It's this, okay, preceded by the $sign. All right. So the so again, the syntax is this, and then arrow, and then status without the $sign. Okay. All right. So this is gonna change to on. All right. Okay, so this is our class. So by default, if we don't specify if a property or method is public or private, by default it's going to be public. Okay. Now let's create a class, an object using our class. So I'm going to create an object, my car. Okay, and we're going to use the class to build this object. Okay. So we need to use the keyword new followed by the name of the class. All right. So now this variable myCar is an instance of our car templates. So automatically it's going to have a make, it's going to have a status, and also it's going to have a method turn on. All right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to dump this variable. We want to see what's inside it. And let's see the results on our web page. Okay, so we can see that we are dealing with an object of class car. Okay, and it's got two properties, the make and the status. And we can see here clearly that the status is private. Okay, and we can see the default value of the make and the default value of the current value of each parameter. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to try to access the make. Okay, so let's have a line break, and right after the line break, let's echo the make of our object myCar. So to access the make, what we're going to do, we write the name of the object, okay, followed by an arrow, minus sign, greater than sign, and then the name of our property without the $sign. Okay, so if we refresh the page, we can see Ford there. So it's returning the value of our property. Okay, so let's try the same thing. Okay, so as we have said, we say that the public methods, they are accessed from within the class and from outside the class. So we easily could access the make of the car. But now let's try to access the status of the car, which is a private property. Okay, so if we refresh the page, now we get an error. We cannot access the private property. Okay. Okay, so we need to use a method to access this property. Okay, so we're going to see later how to overcome this issue. But for now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the turn on method to change the status of our car. Okay, so what we're going to do is just going to use the object. Okay, and we're going to access the method of the object turn on. And after this, we're going to dump the variable again and see what it became. So if you refresh, now we can see that after executing this statement, the status has changed to on. All right. So now let's find a solution to access the status, which is a private property. So we're going to define a method, since we can only access the status from within the property. We're going to create a function inside the class. So we're going to call it get status. Okay, and what this function is going to do, it's going to return the status of the object. So we're going to use the keyword this. Okay, and we're going to access the status. All right, so now if we want to echo the status, let's have a line break, and then we're going to do echo So first of all, we're going to write the name of the object, and then we're going to access the method getStatus. Okay. Now if we save and refresh, we can see that now we can access the status. We can access the status using the method, because the method is accessing the status from within the class. All right. So that's a quick overview about objects and classes in PHP.